Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a stack of source material that is so dense, so bizarre, it takes us right to the heart of one of the most persistent claims out there. Government-run, human-alien hybridization.
It's a huge one. Our mission today is really to synthesize the accounts from Helen Luttrell, especially from her book, Rachel's Eyes.
Right, and to give you the granular detail, the shocking context of what's described as a classified operation, basically run out of a college dorm room.
Exactly. We're deep diving into the alleged life of a young woman named Rachel, who, according to these sources, was a biological hybrid, created and raised by the military and then just inserted into civilian life as an experiment.
Okay, let's start with the immediate chilling details because this is where it hooks you. The story begins in 1972, Sacramento, California. Helen Luttrell's daughter, Marissa, is a student at American River Junior College. And here's the key. Marissa is legally blind. She lost her sight years earlier from juvenile diabetes, and she desperately needs a roommate to help with the rent.
And that's when Rachel appears. The first time Helen meets this new roommate, it's immediately unsettling. Helen reaches out to guide her, and she feels her skin.
I can't get over this description.
She said it was cold and spongy like raw mushrooms. Such a visceral, unforgettable detail.
Raw mushrooms. And it just gets weirder from there. Rachel's adoptive father. Get this, an Air Force colonel. That's your first huge clue. This is not a normal student setup.
And then the eyes. She always kept them hidden behind these huge wraparound sunglasses and an oversized hat.
But when they slipped, what Helen saw was just terrifying.
Large, dark green eyes with pupils that were vertical, exactly like a cat's. The sources even claim that when she made eye contact, it was like her thoughts were flooding directly and painfully into Helen's mind.
So this is the person the military decided to place in a dorm room, which brings us right to part one, the orchestrated arrangement. This was no coincidence. This was a setup.
Oh, a meticulous one. Think about it. Marissa Luttrell needed a roommate who could pay, and crucially, she was legally blind.
That one detail.
That's the whole thing. Colonel Harry Nadian, Rachel's adoptive father, he arranged the entire pairing. He paid half the rent, all the utilities, all in advance. The whole point was that Rachel's unusual appearance, her high cheekbones, thin features, and especially her eyes, none of it would matter to her roommate who couldn't see them.
So her blindness was literally the primary security feature. The college counselor, a woman named Leah Ross, she just unknowingly facilitated the whole thing.
Right. She thought she was just helping a student in need.
Meanwhile, Marissa thinks she's hit the jackpot. Suddenly there's cash, this strange but helpful roommate, and even a new tutor named Bobby, all appearing on the exact same day.
But in reality, it was all EDIC, the Aerospace Technical Information Command, pulling the strings.
And living with Rachel. I mean, that must have been a huge adjustment. Her speech was cold, clinical.
Completely detached. She didn't use names. She just referred to people as males and females.
She had no frame of reference for pop culture either, like Simon and Garfunkel, sports, anything that required any kind of normal socialization.
She claimed she'd only met 4 people before Marissa.
John 4.
Her father, a reading instructor, and 2 nurses on the base. It's like her entire life just started in 1969.
But the weirdness was, I mean, it was physical too. Let's talk about her diet.
Okay, the food. It was a special formula delivered in these small white cardboard boxes.
Marked with only that symbol, right?
That's it. A stark, unsettling red triangle logo with 3 horizontal black lines inside.
And the food itself, not human food. It's described as this dark green, mushy paste, almost like chopped spinach.
And the smell. Helen was very specific about the smell.
Decaying wet grass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rachel explicitly warned Marissa, if you touch this, if you taste it, you will get violently ill. That smell, that detail, it just transports you right into the deeply unnatural reality of their apartment.
But nothing tops the bathroom incident. This is the most shocking physical revelation. Rachel, totally overwhelmed, cuts her wrists.
And when Marissa rushes in to help, she's shocked by what she sees. The blood.
It wasn't red.
It was pink and watery, not thick and red like human blood. And then what happened next was even crazier.
The cuts healed instantly.
Within seconds, right under Marissa's touch. This just screamed a biological structure that was fundamentally not our own.
Wait, hold on. Pink, watery blood, and instant cellular regeneration. I mean, come on. That detail alone, that should have ended any idea that this was a normal college student.
It confirms the non-human element right away. And here's the irony, of course.
Right.
The person who was supposed to be the unwitting keeper of this secret, Marissa, she had a secret of her own.
Her vision was slowly coming back.
It was. She could make out blurry outlines, shapes, so she kept playing blind to keep the arrangement going, but all the while she was watching Rachel, gathering all these impossible details.
Which forces us to look higher up the chain of command. And that's where we get into the classified context, into Colonel Nadian in Part 2. We have to understand the operation here.
Colonel Harry Nadian was a serious player. He joins the Air Force in 1955, gets funneled straight into EDIC Aerospace Technical Information Command,
The UFO unit.
the highly classified UFO Investigation and Recovery Unit. He was based at a massive, mostly underground facility in the Nevada desert called Four Corners. The sources call it a sister installation to Area 51.
And the sources claim Nadian was put in charge for a very specific reason. He had a rare ability.
He could communicate telepathically with the Greys. That's what the material says. And that ability made him indispensable for managing the whole interspecies relationship.
So what was the point of it all? Why the hybridization program in the first place?
This is where it gets chilling. According to a figure named Chisky, who was the lead geneticist, and get this, was identified as a hybrid himself from the Zeta system.
A hybrid geneticist.
Right. He claimed the Greys had lost the ability to reproduce. Too much cloning for too long.
So they were a dying species, and their solution was us.
Chisky said, and this is a quote, that humans were not accidental. We were engineered and designed to be harvested.
Harvested. That is a terrifying thought.
The claim is that our genetic diversity was basically engineered into us, so the Greys could come back every few generations, take samples, and make improvements to keep their own species viable. We were, in essence, engineered genetic livestock.
And that logo on Rachel's food box, the red triangle.
That was the symbol of the entire humanization project.
So let's connect that to Rachel's specific origin story. It starts in 1969.
A huge craft crashes in the Nevada desert. In the rear compartment, they find her alive. She's smaller than a typical Grey, but clearly not human.
And Chisky, the geneticist, identifies her
as a female hybrid from the Zeta Reticuli system containing human DNA markers. So Nadian sees this unique opportunity. He decides to raise her himself. He names her Rachel, and this officially kicks off the humanization project.
And the goal was to see if a hybrid could be integrated, maybe even weaponized, inside human society.
Exactly.
But the deeper truth about where that human DNA came from, that's what unlocks Part 3, the biological link. And it ties this entire classified world directly to Helen Luttrell's own personal history.
Yeah, we have to go back in time to Helen's very strange childhood, starting when she was 8 years old in Rome, New York. She kept seeing this shining ball of beautiful blue light in the woods.
It sounds like a classic early encounter story.
It does, but it gets intensely personal. At age 13, she touches it, and the light speaks to her telepathically. It promises she'll have a baby later that will look like you, but it will be like them.
Like them. Wow.
7 years later, 1951, the promise is seemingly fulfilled. Helen gets tricked into what she thinks is a doctor's visit. She's immobilized by that same blue light, feels this extreme, unbearable pain, and has the distinct thought, they're putting something inside of me.
Then 6 weeks later,
she's pregnant with Marissa, even though her husband had been out of town.
So decades go by, the weirdness of her own life, then Marissa's strange roommate. Helen needs answers.
Which leads her to hypnotic regression in 1998, 26 years after Rachel moved in. And this is where the final mind-bending twist comes out.
Okay, let's track this timeline carefully. The regression supposedly revealed that the embryo taken from Helen back in 1951,
the one that was genetically coded to become Marissa,
was also the source for Rachel.
Precisely. The embryo was apparently taken to Zeta Reticuli. It was grown in an underground tank with green liquid. Helen actually recalled seeing floating babies during her regression, and then it was modified with alien DNA before being sent back to Earth.
In the crashed craft that Nadian found.
Exactly.
So the connection is absolute. Rachel was Helen's biological daughter.
And the final piece of the puzzle, Colonel Harry Nadian was Rachel's genetic father.
So he was her genetic father and her adoptive father, which makes Marissa and Rachel
half-sisters, sharing the same human mother, Helen Luttrell.
This just completely reframes the whole roommate arrangement.
It changes everything. EDIC knew the biological relationship. They were watching Marissa for months, waiting for the right moment. They specifically placed Rachel with her human half-sister to see what would happen.
It wasn't luck. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a controlled, deeply manipulative experiment to test programming against genetic bonds.
A stress test on a human family.
Which brings us to the tragic failure of that experiment in part 4. The scientists, they wanted the hybrids to be operational. They wanted them to simulate human emotion.
To blend in, to smile, to look functional, but they didn't want them to actually feel.
Because real emotion.
Real emotion, especially complex things like loyalty and love, that was deemed a threat to the mission. Emotion leads to unpredictable behavior, choices outside of the programming.
And Rachel developed exactly that. Real emotional attachment. She started calling Helen mother. She developed this deep protective loyalty to Marissa.
And she proved that loyalty with her final act. Near the end of the semester, Rachel knew her presence was a danger, so she disappeared, leaving Marissa a note and a special gift.
Rachel, who could instantly heal wounds, who healed herself after the crash, she used that power on Marissa.
Not on herself, but on her sister. She healed her eyes, reversing the damage from diabetes and restoring her sight after 6 years of blindness.
An incredible act of selfless loyalty. But as we said, Colonel Nadian chose Marissa because she was blind.
So Rachel's act of love completely undid the one condition that protected her cover. It made the whole experiment possible. She chose her family over the mission.
And the military's reaction was swift. The reports from the base became alarming. Subject displays emotional attachment. Subject refers to H. Luttrell as mother. Subject has ceased regular reporting.
2 years after she left the apartment, Rachel was killed. Pushed down a flight of stairs, allegedly.
And Nadian, her father, he knew the military ordered her death. He had accepted the idea that it was necessary for the greater good of the project.
The greater good being secrecy. He later came to regret it deeply, which is why he eventually told Helen the whole story, so Rachel wouldn't be forgotten.
The tragic irony is just overwhelming. The humanization project worked too well. It made a mistake by giving her the capacity to feel.
She became, in her compassion and love, more human than the people running the program. And they killed her for it.
Okay, so moving to part 5, we have to look at this through the lens of evidence to provide that balance for you, the learner. This entire narrative hinges almost completely on Helen Luttrell's accounts.
Right, from her book and her hypnotic regression, which happened in 1998. That's a full 26 years after the events.
And the skeptical viewpoint here is strong. Hypnosis is, well, it's extremely controversial. It can lead to creating false memories that just align with what you already believe or fear.
Yeah, there's no way to confirm these complex details from the main players. Colonel Nadian's name was changed in later publications, and Marissa, sadly, died years before the book ever came out.
You also have to note that a lot of these details, projects like Magic and Pounce, descriptions of the Greys, Zeta Reticuli,
that stuff was already circulating pretty widely in UFO literature by the 90s. It's plausible those external details got subconsciously woven into her memories during regression.
However, there are some crucial corroborating points that make this story really stick. First, Helen's story stayed remarkably consistent for decades. The details about Rachel's skin, her eyes, her clinical speech, they never changed.
Which is unusual for a fabricated memory. Also, her emotional response during that regression was intense, sobbing, trembling. Her therapist judged it to be genuine trauma, not an act.
But maybe the strongest external proof comes from the other witnesses who backed up the mundane but strange details.
Exactly. People remembered Rachel's constant sunglasses, the weird smell of the food, and those small white boxes with the red triangle logo.
But the real smoking gun involves the college itself. Investigators contacted American River Junior College, and they received an official letter.
A letter confirming that, yes, a student named Rachel Nadian attended in 1972.
So she existed. Case closed, right?
Not so fast.
Yeah.
When the investigators went back to follow up, everything had changed. The letter was gone. The employee who signed it was transferred, and all college records, digital or physical, of a Rachel Nadian had been completely erased.
I mean, if the story was just a fantasy, why would a community college erase the records of a student from 26 years earlier? That action, the removal of evidence, is for many people the real confirmation.
It suggests she existed and that the subject was sensitive. She was literally erased from history because her existence was a threat to a classified operation.
So whether you accept Helen's account as literal truth or as, a framework to process some kind of intense trauma, the core message is still powerful. It's a story about the dangers of information control and the strength of biological bonds.
The whole experiment was designed to see if a hybrid could integrate into society. But the real test, the final test, was whether that hybrid could overcome its programming and choose family.
And Rachel chose family. Her loyalty was the program's greatest failure.
The fact that she was killed for showing compassion and love, It just highlights the moral vacuum at the heart of this alleged project. She became fully human, and she paid for it with her life.
Yeah. So here's the provocative thought for you to think about. Rachel gave Marissa the gift of sight. She healed the very condition that the government used to set up the entire experiment. If a hybrid can choose loyalty, can sacrifice her own safety for someone she loves, what does that act of radical, selfless love say about the ultimate capacity for empathy across species?